advantage. Penalty advantage as he peels around. Buster one, still going for the line. He rolling stuff. Puts it away. Lasika on the hard line. Bounces one, still going. The inside centre, rampaging to Brucky in open space. Look at him go. Marcel Brucky puts his head down. Scully's one out. He won't in. He goes up though, chases this one now. It's outside the 22, the ball bounces up. McKenzie has it. Genius. Conversates the Terminator is in. The United States have defeated Scotland for the first time in history.
Hello and welcome to 10 Minutes with Matt Hawkins, former USA Sevens captain, the sleek sensation, appearing in over 40 tournaments, 56 tries, avid stamp collector, and known on the Sevens World Series as the Polar Bear. Great to catch up, my friend.
Good day, sir. How are you? Wonderful to see your face.
Always marvelous when I get to see the blonde polar bear curls. Maddie, let's start with your US journey. How did you end up here? When and how did that happen?
So I was really fortunate. I think I came out here when I was about 12 years old. I had family out here, thankfully, and so that's how I ended up out here. Had a great holiday, loved it. Sort of fell in love with America, in whole. And throughout sort of my high school career, I also used to play water polo, and through water polo, I had the opportunity to travel quite a bit. And so through that, there's obviously some opportunities to come out to the States for colleges and things like that. So while at high school, was actively looking at that as sort of the next sort of path, if you will, post high school. So I've done, some pretty extensive research into that. But then sort of my rugby sort of took off a little bit more than the water polo stuff and ended up sticking around in South Africa. And during that time, we study sort of a calendar year, right? So January through December, and just had some opportunities to come out during our summer vacation, right? Which was November, December, January. And during those times coming out while I was in college, just connected with the folks out here at ONBAC, found out that there was rugby, and had a good friend, Chris Ferrara, as you know, who was out here at the same time, and he had actually moved out here and, saw it as an opportunity. So took it, and, the rest is history.
Yeah, you got to play with the legendary group there at ONBAC. I remember battling against you guys week in, week out. It was no fun. But let's go to your nickname, the Polar Bear. Is that something you've always had since the water polo days?
No, it really hasn't. It's something that I think you maybe coined at some point, which is something that I appreciate. I have had quite a few nicknames in the past, but no, you coined it. It stuck, and thankful for it.
Well, you kept bowling people over on the series, so it was a no-brainer. Let's talk about this.
I just thought it was my lovely locks.
Well, obviously, it's the locks and what you do with them. Let's talk about sevens. You have an extensive resume. Could you list just a couple of your fondest memories playing on the series?
I think, as you know, I think the opportunity to travel like we did, see parts of the world that I wouldn't necessarily go on a holiday by myself or with a family, but then to do it with a group of guys that at the same time you forge a pretty special relationship and bond with. I think that's the most unique part about that team and about that program. I think, the next thing I would say is, just the competition. I think that's the thing that drew me to that and drew me to, continue to come back, if you will. I just love competing against, that seven circuit, especially when we were around. There were a lot of guys coming through and ending up going through, to 15s programs all around the world. So it was a great opportunity to test yourself, test your skills, and, test your team essentially against some of the best, athletes and players from around the world.
And Maddie, let's talk about, I particularly remember a highlight. I was a media manager for your side. I want to say it was the London Sevens. First time beating South Africa, the Blitzboks. Talk about that, and also what was it like going against your country of birth? Because there's some players on the other side against you that you had played with in South Africa.
Yeah, I think very, very special, very unique. And fortunately enough, I actually got to score a try in that game. So, very fond memories. I think there are a lot of teams, that you have, there's just a little bit more when you beat them. Of course, anytime as an athlete, when you step onto that field, you want to beat anyone and everyone. But yeah, there was definitely a sweet and savored moment that, I'll hold for a long time to come.
Same here, Matty. And my next thing, it was a tricky transition in terms of, I personally think, and you weren't done playing. You had to switch then all of a sudden and coach the US Sevens team on the circuit. Talk a bit about that transition and what was that year like?
Dallen, for me, it was it's probably been the biggest catalyst of my life to this point. For me, I very much had the dream, the motivation, and sort of the drive to go to the 2016 Olympics as a player. That was definitely my plan. Unfortunately, again, I can't hold anyone else account but myself. I'm accountable for the decisions I made, and I think I would still love that opportunity again. Never regret doing it. It was a year that I had to work incredibly hard and swim upstream against a lot of things. But at the same time, I don't think I was ready for it. I think I should have pursued playing more. And it's the playing element is still something that's the one piece that I regret, right? I wish I could have finished that piece of my sort of rugby career in a different manner. But at the same time, as I said, it was a huge catalyst for me, learned a lot, and realistically spent probably 2-3 years really understanding and learning what that year meant and what it did for me. I was, 29 going on 30-year-old. And so there was a lot for me to learn. And so it was great for me. It put me in a really good spot, and moving forward, it allowed me to sort of become who I am today.
Yeah, exactly. All those experiences. We chatted with Ben Gollings the other day, and even Ben was saying he didn't get a chance to go out how he wanted to on the playing field. And that's how life goes. You got to deal with it and move forward, which you did. You've done a ton since then in the rugby space. Give us a brief background of some of those rugby coaching programs and initiatives that you help with.
Oh, Dallen, I'd have to write a book. But no, I think from my side of things, I've always tried to throw myself at anything and everything that, was rugby related, whether it be youth development, UA, kids in, local youth program here, to, working with academies around the country, to helping, figure out professional rugby and what that'll look like and how they'll be structured. There was definitely a 10-year span there where, all I really was looking to do was help rugby grow in some capacity, while still keep my wife happy at home, right? And keep a roof over her head and food on the table, which, in the rugby world, has been a challenge. But yeah, no, there were many different programs, super thankful that I had the opportunity to travel the country and get to know a lot of the people in the rugby community around the US,
And Matt, a lot of people want to know, what are you up to these days?
I went back to my first love, Dallen, which is coffee. No, so I think I've always had a bit of a, if life wasn't what it turned out to be, I've always dreamed of sort of being a chef and being a bit of a coffee connoisseur. That's something that I think I would have loved to have done, in another life. And so I currently now work with a group, and we are in sort of the quick service restaurant industry. And we've got a couple different brands, but sort of our major brand that we actually develop and run is Dunkin'. So, Dunkin' as in coffee and donuts. And so that's sort of my day-to-day job. And then we've got sort of a couple other brands, as I said. So it's been an interesting transition, but, the really cool thing that it's sort of taken place over the last 2 years is, we've got over 300 employees, and, I've spent a lot of time working with our group to really cultivate a team sort of dynamic environment and culture with our organization, and essentially approach it as each store is their own team, and they have their team leader, and they're all striving towards their sales goals. And so it's been really enjoyable and incredibly challenging, but really, really rewarding.
Well, America runs on Dunkin', so we're big fans here. The missus is from the East Coast, so yeah, pal, we'll definitely be funneling a few with you. And then, Matty, listen, I know you got a couple of junior polar bears running around in at your house.
Yes,
would you like to get back into rugby at some stage later?
I think the last years have been really great. I've had the opportunity to actually coach my two kids who are now 12 and 10, which has been a lot of fun. I think, for me, like you, rugby's in my blood. But I think for a very long time, rugby was a thing that I, through, 100% into, but realistically wasn't something that was going to provide the future for my family that I needed to provide, if you will. And so now I've got an opportunity to go away and essentially forge myself in another career and come back to rugby when I'm in a position, either because my kids have aspired and essentially find themselves in a position where they need me to be involved to help them, or essentially they've gone off to college and have no interest in dad anymore, right? And I have the opportunity to come back to rugby. I think rugby is, hopefully is a game that's going to continue to grow here in this country. And so there will continue to be more opportunities each and every year. And so, at some point I would like to come back to it. But at this point, just really happy watching from a distance.
Awesome, Matty. That's brilliant. And listen, finally, I love when the commentators used to say when you were playing that you used to take your stamp book all over the world and collect the stamps. Is that true?
Dallen, I'm going to keep this very PG for you, but it was a very well-laid plan by a certain individual who created that. And I say well played. I say well played. Wellington definitely provided the opportunity for those moments.
Oh, the Polar Bear. Listen, we can't wait to get you on for a longer chat on the Rugby Hive. We'll hear your dream team, your favorite players to play with and against, all the stories on tours. It'll be brilliant to have you back on.
I look forward to it, Dallen. Great to see you again.
Thanks so much for stopping by and getting run like a parked car on the Rugby Corner. That was 10 minutes with Matt Hawkins. Keep the change, you sleek sensations.